I'm Bella. I'm sitting in my living room, holding an old photograph in a cracked wooden frame. The picture shows a little girl with two braids standing in a backyard beside a man with dark hair and a faint scar near the corner of his mouth. The girl is me, and I'm no older than 6. The man beside me is the same man who stood outside my home at 3 o'clock this morning, sending shivers down my spine and turning my world upside down. My life was pretty normal before this. I'm a 32-year-old freelance web designer, working from home to take care of my 8-year-old son, Leo. We live in a quiet suburban neighborhood. The neighbors here are friendly. They wave at each other on the way to work and exchange homemade pies during holidays. I moved here because I wanted Leo to grow up in a safe and peaceful environment. My younger sister, Lily, is my rock. She's a fearless journalist who's always ready to jump into any situation. She often teases me about my obsession with home security. I lock every door, check the security cameras, and keep the porch light on every night. Raising a child on my own has made me extra cautious. Last night, I was up late working on a big project for a client. My eyes were heavy, and the house was deathly quiet after midnight. Before going to bed, I peeked into Leo's room. He was curled up with his teddy bear, looking so peaceful that it made me smile. He had asked me earlier if we could go to the park the next day, and I told him he had to finish his homework first. After checking the front door one last time, making sure it was locked tight, I went to bed, thinking the house was secure for the night. Little did I know that just a few hours later, my world would be shattered. At 3 o'clock in the morning, my phone's sharp buzz woke me up. For a few seconds, I thought it was part of a nightmare. But the vibration persisted, pulling me fully awake. My room was cold and still, and I could feel my heart pounding in my chest. I reached for my phone on the nightstand and saw the alert from my Ring camera, person detected. My first thought was that it was probably just a stray animal or a passerby. But something about the timing made me uneasy. My hands trembled as I opened the app. And there he was, a man standing on my porch, staring straight into the camera. He was in his late 30s, with short dark hair and that distinct scar near his mouth. He wore a black leather jacket zipped up to his neck. There was something eerily familiar about him, like someone I might have seen in a dream. He lifted his hands slowly and waved, not in a friendly way, but in a slow, deliberate manner. Then, he mouthed the words, "You will understand by morning." A chill ran down my spine. I immediately backed out of the app and tiptoed to Leo's room. He was still sound asleep, hugging his teddy bear. Seeing him safe made my knees weak with relief, but it also reminded me that I was his only protector. I forced myself to reopen the camera feed. The man was still there, his expression unchanged, as if he could see right through me. I pressed my hand over my mouth to stop myself from screaming and whispered, "Lily, pick up." Lily answered after 2 rings, her voice groggy with sleep. "Bella, it's 3 o'clock in the morning. What's wrong?" I told her in a hushed voice that there was a man at my door, staring at the camera and waving. She immediately told me to call the police, lock my bedroom door, and stay away from the windows. But I hesitated. I didn't know if he was dangerous or if this was some strange misunderstanding. I told Lily that he had mouthed something. When she asked what it was, I said, "He said I'll understand by morning." She insisted that I call the police right away. Just then, I heard a soft sound from the front door, like someone shifting their weight. My heart raced, and my hands went numb. I quickly refreshed the camera feed, but the porch was empty. The man had vanished into the night, leaving no trace of how he had come or gone. I locked myself in my room, clutching a baseball bat. I sat there, wide awake, my eyes fixed on the hallway and my ears tuned to every sound in the house. Every little noise made me jump. I kept checking the camera feed, terrified that he would reappear. As the night wore on, my fear turned into determination. I needed to know who this man was and why he had come to my door. When the sky started to turn gray, I felt a wave of exhaustion, but also a sense of resolve. I waited until I heard the first birds outside, then I picked up the baseball bat and stepped into the hallway. My heart was pounding as I walked towards the front door. Leo was still in his bed, starting to stir. Seeing him safe gave me the courage to keep going. When I reached the front door, I stopped in my tracks. The door was wide open, and the morning breeze was blowing through. I knew I had locked it the night before. I checked the lock, it was still in the locked position. I searched every room in the house, but everything seemed untouched. However, the open door told a different story. Someone had been inside, and they had managed to unlock the door without leaving a mark. I called Lily, and she rushed over. When she arrived, Leo was having breakfast at the table, completely unaware of the danger that had lurked in our house. Lily called the police, and when they arrived, they searched the house and asked me if I had any problems with the door or the lock. I told them the door was in perfect condition and that I always made sure it was secure. The officer nodded politely, but I could see the doubt in his eyes. He suggested it might have been a glitch or the wind. I was frustrated because I knew what I had seen on the camera. After the police left, Lily and I sat on the couch and replayed the ring footage. She squinted at the screen and said, "He's too calm. This isn't a prank." I agreed and started searching through all the clips from the night. I found a small thumbnail that I had missed before. It was recorded at 4:13 in the morning. My stomach tightened as I clicked on the video. At first, the hallway camera showed only darkness. Then, the front door started to move slowly inward, as if pushed by an invisible hand. It was opening from the inside. Lily whispered, "Someone was inside your house." The truth hit me like a ton of bricks. Someone had walked through my home while Leo and I were asleep. I was determined to find out who this man was and what he wanted. I gathered my laptop phone and all the camera footage. I sat on the couch, replaying the hallway footage. The door kept moving inward in the same steady way, as if someone knew exactly how to open it. Lily said, "There has to be more. Maybe he showed up inside the house, too." I was scared at the thought, but I knew she was right. I selected the next clip after the door opened. The screen showed an empty hallway lit by a small nightlight. Then, the man from the porch appeared at the far end. He walked slowly down the hallway, his hands by his sides, his steps silent. He moved like he knew the layout of the house, as if he had been there before. My breath caught in my throat as I watched him walk towards Leo's room. Every part of me wanted to look away, but I forced myself to keep watching. He stopped in front of Leo's bedroom door, lifted his hand as if to touch the door, but then hesitated. He reached into his pocket and pulled out something small and thin. He walked back to the hallway table beneath the mirror and placed the object on it with great care. Then he stood there for a moment, looking at the mirror as if lost in thought. Finally, he walked back down the hall and disappeared from the frame. Lily and I walked to the hallway and looked at the table. I picked up the object, it was the old photograph. I stared at it for what felt like hours, my mind racing with questions. Why did I have no memory of this man? Why had my mother never shown me this picture? I turned the frame over and saw the writing on the back, "He tried to warn you. Ask your mother about Ethan." Ethan was the name of my biological father, the one my mother always said died before I was born. She never talked about him, always changing the subject when I asked questions. I felt a wave of confusion and betrayal. Lily touched my shoulder and said, "You need to call Mom." I nodded and walked to the living room to dial her number. My mother answered with a cheerful voice, but it faded when she heard mine. I told her I needed to know everything about Ethan. She was silent for a long time, and when she finally spoke, her voice was shaking. She said, "Bella, I was never ready to tell you the full truth. Ethan was alive when you were young, but he suffered from severe paranoia. He was convinced that someone was always after him and that danger followed him everywhere. He loved you, but his mental state was unstable. I left him to keep you safe. He disappeared years ago, and I later heard that he had passed away quietly. I asked her about the man at my door. She hesitated and then said, "That's his younger brother, Max. He always said he wanted to find you one day." I didn't think he'd actually come. It all started to make sense. Max wasn't a threat, he was trying to deliver a message from Ethan. I sat in the living room, holding the photograph, as my mother's words echoed in my mind. The idea that Ethan had lived, suffered, and missed my childhood made my heart ache. I slowly removed the photo from the frame and found a folded letter behind it. My hands shook as I opened it. The handwriting was thin and slanted, written by someone who was clearly tired but trying to be clear. Ethan began the letter by apologizing. He wrote about how he had always wanted to be a part of my life but was too afraid. He spoke of the fear that had haunted him, a fear that he later realized was in his own mind. He said he could never forgive himself for missing out on my childhood. He ended the letter by pleading with me to raise Leo with love and not fear, and to believe in my ability to create a better life. As I read his words, I felt a shift inside me. It wasn't forgiveness, and it wasn't anger. It was a deep understanding that people break in different ways, and sometimes they don't know how to put themselves back together. Lily squeezed my hand, and for the first time in a long time, I felt grounded. The truth was painful, but it brought clarity. I walked into the hallway and stared at the spot where Max had placed the photograph. The house felt quiet, not the tense silence from the night before, but a calm stillness. I knew I needed to protect Leo, and I planned to file a report and request extra patrols in the area. But I also hoped Max wouldn't return, because I believed he had given me everything he came to give. I spent the rest of the morning cleaning the house. Each room felt different now, knowing that someone with a connection to my past had walked through it. Leo came out of his room, rubbing his eyes and asking for breakfast, completely oblivious to what had happened. I kissed the top of his head and put the photograph in a drawer where I kept things that mattered. My mother called later, crying and apologizing for keeping secrets. I told her I wanted to talk in person soon, but for now, I needed time to process everything. As evening came, I checked the Ring cameras again. Part of me was afraid of seeing Max return, but the feed showed an empty porch under the warm glow of the setting sun. I scrolled through the recordings one last time and saw nothing new. I was finally ready to delete the earlier videos, not to forget, but to stop reliving the fear. Just as I was about to close the app, a new notification popped up, "Person detected." My heart skipped a beat, but I opened the feed immediately. There was no one on the porch, just the leaves rustling in the evening wind. Then, just before the clip ended, a soft voice drifted from off-screen. It said, "Take care of him." I took a deep breath. This time, the words didn't fill me with fear. They felt like closure. Whether Max was close or far away, I knew that this chapter was ending. I locked my doors, checked on Leo, and felt a newfound strength in my chest. I was ready to move forward and build the safe life Ethan had always wished for me. And if you want more stories like this, make sure you subscribe to my channel and comment where you are watching.